Good morning. Happy Tuesday. I am looking forward to you having the opportunity in your day to quiet the mind and use this practice as you like to squeeze in some movement, breath, and one can hope relaxation. Go ahead and make it your own. We're going to start on our hands and knees in a grateful position. You may want some padding under your knees or double fold that mat if you want a little bit more support under the knees. We're going to start with some breathing. Deep inhale and exhale. Long body reach, lifting away from the grounded knees. Relaxing the head and neck. Almost beginning with them in a soft position. Seated away from those ears. You can curl the toes under if you'd like to stretch the bottom of your feet, or you just generally find that more comfortable. There's something about those feet lying flat that sometimes creates some crampiness. Let's hold the hands in front of our chest in that prayer-like position, securing the palms together. We're going to sit back on our heels and lift, drawing up through the ribs, away from the hips and the grounded knees. We're drawing up from the floor of our pelvis and pulling the leg muscles tightly towards the hips. Well done. Let's take a deep breath. Inhale, reach overhead. If you'd like to sweep the hands again behind the back to draw down as supporting the hips, squeezing the glutes, opening the front of the hips just a little bit more after creating that heat in the hips. Cinch your waistline, deep breath, inhale, reach overhead. We're going to repeat that this time. If you'd like, you can leave the hands overhead and lift, release. Or again, remembering you can reach for a foot. Or with the feet flat. Pull up. Exhale, release onto all fours. Hands and knees are going to be positioned directly below your shoulders and your hips. So the arms and upper leg are hopefully parallel to one another, creating this nice box, if you will. I'll sometimes refer to staying in your box. If your wrists are problematic, folding the mat like this also gives some elevation so that the fold at your wrist isn't so great. I encourage you to be mindful that you're not dumping or really putting all of your body weight into your hands. These are our cat-cows. We're going to make some space as we release the abdomen. Draw the head up. Pull the shoulders down the rails of your spine. And let's slow that down. I seal my pelvic floor. Draw the abdomen in like purse strings being cinched tightly as your belly button is zip tied to your spine. That zip tie is ideally held throughout the whole movement. We're going to rise, curling those feet up into our downward facing dog. So exhale and pull the head back through your biceps, your arms. Trying to open up that glute fold where the leg inserts into the gluteals. Pull the abdomen in, see if you can find length. We're going to pedal the feet a little bit to release those lower legs. My hope is we're all moving a little bit more even than we might have been. And as a result, there's an equal response by the body that really requires us to take action in the way of active recovery. Meaning, when I do this, I feel my lower legs. I've been getting a few more and longer walks in during the week. So there's going to be an equal and opposite reaction in my body from the good of any cardio or other, workouts, movement you might be doing. Well done, everyone. We're going to come back to our knees and extend the hips forward. I'm positioning my hands to make room for those hips. Lots of variations of this, by the way. So if the knees down isn't comfortable, again, you could curl the toes and try and put more of your thigh down. There's a mini version of this with the elbows in tight and more weight moves into the hips versus the knees. Hands on parallel, pull the mat into. This is still our fourth pose. And they sometimes blur together. I mostly encourage you to make it your own. So pulling the hands towards the hips, trying to create space through the hips without straining that low back. The gaze can move up as well, but again, if that starts putting more stress in the low back, really strong arms, collarbone pulls east to west, can wring out those thighs and relax. There is a lot of wrist load in today's practice, so you can always modify to elbows. We're going to pull into our high plank. I left my feet wide. If you want more work, you're going to bring them into center. Relax the shoulders, extend the head like the needle on that compass should extend beyond the shoulders. Squeeze the thighs together, so whether the feet are close or apart, you're wringing out your legs as you push the earth away from your feet and hands. Squeeze those dimples into your back pockets. 20 seconds, 5 breath, hold. Or, of course, segments of that, knees down. There's that elbow version of the plank. This all works. It's in the doing and the progressing. So that's all that same pose. I wanted to bring it here because we're going to chaturanga. So from that high plank, I want to demonstrate from the knees first. This is what it looks like from the forearms. And my knees, I can relax my feet. So it looks a lot like that mini Cobra, but I am keeping my hips up. So the line from my knees, my hips, my shoulders. Now let me show from the full plank, the chaturanga. I'm going to lengthen my mat out so it doesn't slide like yesterday. That second chaturanga is right here, holding and hovering. And this would be our 5 breath, 20-second hold. Cumulatively, we've more than done that. We're going to push up one more time, finding that length. according to your hips and shoulders and strength. Always breath. Trying to use that breath to quiet the mind. Really tune into the body. Finding length. This last pose is really juicy. We're going to come up back into that high plank. Step the foot forward. And again, move into that pigeon. Ideally, we would have both hips resting on the floor. Mine isn't quite there on the right. It's a tough one to open up vertically. The hands can help, and a bolster or that yoga block under the hip. A lot of people tend to roll out with this. We're going to try to keep the hands and at our hips. That's our cue to rotate and stack the shoulders over. Still sealing the abdomen, pelvic floor, glutes, relaxing both shoulders. Can't do this without also giving you the opportunity and a child's pose variation of this. You're just going to push the mat away and fold. Let's take a few breaths right here. 3 breaths right here, right now. The opportunity. Center, refocus. Well done. So we're going to move to the top of the sequence and put us at our hands and knees. Great recovery from any work you felt lengthening the spine, but landing on tension or tightness in the hips or low back, particularly. If you're feeling low back, again, try glutes positioned and activated. If we have a firm foundation, hopefully our back is not left in the wind to support itself. Again, it's the counter work of the abdominals pulling in and your glutes squeezing as you maintain the scaffolding. So here is the cat-cow. We started on hands and knees. Move some more weight into your hips and knees so that you could pick a hand up easily and you wouldn't topple from one side to the other. Sometimes a reminder might be to come to fingertips. You can't load as much weight through your fingertips. You need to give the wrist a break. Knuckles or your fist. So let's hold right here and just find some space. Hold the rounding. Stable head and neck. Go ahead and release. Hold that cow, sway back, keeping your abdomen still retained, and then the head lifts. So holding these 2 positions. Actively pulling the mat apart with my legs. Again, through that pinky side, squaring off my hips. Let's move into our downward facing dog. Pull onto, lift, draw the hips back. If my legs should look perfectly straight, they're not. There's a slight bend. You get to control the amount of hamstring and calf stretching. wherever you first feel the tension. So if your calves are tighter, that might be where you're feeling it. Or you might be limited immediately by your back. Hamstrings. Pull the abdomen in. Your chest moves through. The head relaxes through those arms. I'm going to pedal a little bit because it feels so good on that lower leg. Our walking muscles. So if you are doing more walking, I encourage you to do a calf stretch, a runner's stretch, right after your walk. If you're not doing, a warm-up per se of stretches, that opportunity after you've walked is so perfectly placed when the body is warm and encouraged to release, more so than when we are trying to stretch from a cool or non-active period. Well done. We're going to come into that high plank. Hold for just a minute. Lengthen that spine and then bring the legs to the mat and hold for your Cobra. Or the mini, maybe you need to bring it down a little bit and tease some length. Elbows park beneath the shoulders, hug the chest. Try to bring that gaze forward like a sphinx. So as if a string is attached to the top of my head, I'm trying to, again, create that length and move out of my shoulder shrug. That original version was to move the hands beneath the shoulders at our hips. Find that length. Squeeze and release your glutes. That will encourage or tease out a release. Just avoid the shrug. Same idea, squeezing those quads, glutes. I just have a strong arm without locking out my elbow or wrist. And then we move into that high plank. Let's sneak in a child's pose right here. Because we have high plank and chaturanga or elbow plank. Either will do. So these are going to merge into one pose of your choosing. Here's that high plank. Remembering you can be on your elbows. 20 seconds. And chaturanga, so we pull our nose to the floor, but by not allowing our body to change shape. Holding there, 5 breaths, or I like to give you a modified version with the hips down. Most importantly, the best, probably in between, if you feel you can start with the chaturanga, but then you fatigue. You could come from toes to chaturanga, but then set the knees down and pull yourself up, keeping your abdomen from the mat. If you need to relax into the mat and come back up. It's a big strength pose, and you really need to be able to put all those pieces together to do it successfully. But over time, with all things, right? Change occurs. We just have to be patient because it's often so incremental that our minds, who are conditioned for instant gratification, can't really see that future. So I'm going to hold space and allow from hands and knees, the opposite leg is going to sweep forward for our final pigeon, our final pose together today. Back to holding space. It's a hard thing to do, but if we trust what we intellectually know to be true, that if we give our body a stimulus, there is that equal opposite reaction. I'm kind of sorting myself out, repositioning through the hips, maybe bringing my hands back a little further. Remember, there's that forward fold. Not everybody has that spinal flexibility to move into upright. So you may want the hands more forward to just, again, tease or push yourself gently over time more overweight. So you can see my hip is also trying to rotate out. See if I can get my stack a little bit better. Come to those elbows. You saw me moving into that child's pose version. Right here, inhale. Right now, exhale. The hands further away do create more load to this stretch. So if that's too much, you draw those hands back in. Just hang out here and see if you can rotate that hip forward. The foot is drawn horizontally, resting in front of that hip. You may not be there yet, so again, that's where that bolster or brick, the block, can help. Let's just sit cross-legged a moment. I'm going to make my way back to you. Let's set an intention for the day. Congratulate ourselves for the work. Acting, small actions are the work that prepare us for change. Gently let your hands get heavy and press into those inner knee, thigh. Seal that abdomen, drawing the pelvic floor up. Pulling the purse strings around your middle and squeezing the glutes. I thank you for this opportunity to meet in this virtual space. I'm going to give it to you now, the rest of your day. Perhaps it's the end of your day. That's the fabulous part about this ability to connect virtually. Enjoy the rest of the day. Tomorrow we will have another day of yoga with meditation to relax at the end. Namaste.